thanks everybody. Thanks for being here today. We've got a nice little crowd. Yeah, please help yourself to the brownies. That was a nice gift, as well as the wine and cheese and the grapes. But Matt Weinberg, the first thing I like to do is just typically start with introductions. So why don't you go first, and then I'll go right after.
Sure. So I'm Matt Weinberg. I'm co-founder and president of development and technology at Vector Media Group. We've been on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list for the last 2 years. We'll be on it again when it's announced this year in a month or two. Basically, I lead up all of our technology and development projects and staff and all of that, which is 70 to 80% of our business.
Well, I'm Deepak Balwani. As you know, I'm the host and organizer of ITSMB, one of three. I'm also a consulting professional. I own and operate my own independent consulting firm. I started in consulting with Accenture for about 3 years. Spent about 2 years in energy and utilities, and then another 2 years at a mid-sized consultancy building their people and change practice, as well as working at a cloud-based technology consultancy before going independent. So with that said, let's get started with the questions. As an organization gets larger, there can be a tendency for the institution to dampen the inspiration. How do you keep this happening at Vector Media Group?
Sure. So we've grown a lot in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
When it was just me and my co-founder working nights and weekends to now, and we have like these amazing clients and just amazing staff. I think it's a couple of different things.
Okay.
I think first of all, everybody says this, but you have to hire people. You have to hire the best people. You have to, the position that's open that you're suffering because you haven't filled that yet, you can't just fill it with a B-level person or just to kind of get the position filled. You have to hire great people, and you have to really instill your values and what's important to your team, what's important to your company from the beginning.
Okay.
So I think we do that in a couple different ways. One of them is that we give people a lot of autonomy. So we basically explain to people, these are the values of the company, this is how we've grown over the last couple of years, this is why we're successful and why our clients continue to work with us, but we're not going to micromanage you.
Okay.
You are autonomous in many ways, you're a representative of the company, and so we kind of expect that you'll carry that banner on your own. Each employee carries that banner on their own, kind of to our clients and internally. We also have a very open company, so we solicit feedback constantly.
Wow.
Negative feedback especially, but what could we be doing better? Who's killing it at the company? Which one of your coworkers are doing amazing? Which one of your coworkers maybe need to step it up a little bit? What could I be doing better as a manager? What could our other partners and business heads be doing better? I started the company in high school.
Right.
And I went to college, did it nights and weekends, took a full-time job at the New York Times, did it nights and weekends, and then it was just me and my co-founder, and then about 4 years ago, we both quit our jobs.
Wow.
And decided to take it full-time. Since then, it's grown from the two of us to be 32 people.
Wow.
We have amazing clients, and we've never taken on investment, debt, anything like that. We've been profitable since day one.
That's great.
We have amazing clients. Google is one of our biggest clients. We work with the Associated Press. We work with a lot of universities like Columbia University, Northeastern. And we have tiny clients, little startups that nobody's ever heard of, and everything in between. It's a pretty big mix.
Yeah, that's great. Associated Press, they do work for the New York Times, so they're a big deal. How do you, and you talked about some of the core values, so let's get into that. How do you ensure an organization and its activities, such as Vector Media Group, are aligned with your core values? How do you ensure your employees are aligned with your core values?
It's a lot of the stuff that I was talking about before. I guess I jumped ahead a little bit.
No.
I think I tend to believe that when our people on our team are smart and feel empowered, that they'll take pride in the company that they're working for, and they'll take pride in the work they're doing, and they'll want to continue to like carry the banner and do the things that have made us successful. So we really empower all of our employees very specifically to do what they need to do to make clients happy, to tell us when we're doing things wrong, to change things. I don't think anybody at the company feels like they're just a cog. And I think that's a big part of keeping your core values in place, because when you empower people, they take ownership and they take pride, and they feel like it's their company too, and the success and the values you have are part of their responsibility.
Oh, well. How do you encourage creative thinking at your company? So we talked about, keeping your employees engaged and, giving them room and not micromanaging and them being autonomous. What about creative thinking? Like, how do you encourage that with some of your employees? I know they're already A players, and
right.
Maybe they bring, their A game to work every day, but what do you and the other founder do as leaders to support creative thinking, for example?
So one thing that I know is somewhat controversial is that we have a big open office plan.
Okay.
And I know that it's kind of a trend thing, right? Like everyone was trending to open offices, now there's like
Sure.
this big backlash. But we don't really have any private offices for anybody in the company. Everybody's kind of out. Obviously people have their own desks and their space and all that.
Sure.
But honestly, like that's one thing that I think really helps.
Okay.
Because what I'll see is a couple people working on a project, they'll kind of like turn their chairs around, just kind of like brainstorm with each other for a couple minutes and then go back. They don't have to schedule a meeting or go into a room or something.
Right.
Like sounds so stupid and silly, but
right.
Like I feel like getting rid of that little barrier of scheduling something and going to a conference room and walking away from your computer helps a lot.
Yeah.
We also have an internal company chat room.
Yeah, tell us about that. Tell the audience and us about that.
Yeah, so we use a system called HipChat, which is very similar to Slack. A lot of people have probably heard of Slack. Basically, it has two purposes. It first of all has direct private messages, so I can communicate with anybody individually. It's totally private. But then there are all these rooms, and you can set up rooms for whatever you'd like.
Okay.
So we have like a general chat room where everyone in the company is in, and it's honestly like a lot of lunch talk and like jokes and all those kinds of like people complaining about music choices or whatnot. And then we have individual rooms for each department, and then we have individual rooms for each project we're working on. But the department rooms are open, so like I can go to my partner's department's room at any time. They can come into our room, and people kind of just post, and there's no responsibility to like write back. We don't tell people you have to write back or anything. But what you end up with is a lot of kind of stream of consciousness type stuff.
Sure.
Where people say, hey, I'm having this problem. Somebody else jumps in. Well, can you do it like this? Somebody else jumps in, and now everyone in the company sees how maybe 3 of the more senior, experienced people have just solved the problem together.
Yeah, that's great. But also the open door layout. I mean, the physical structure supports creativity and spontaneity. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, it also supports training in a way, right? That like when we hire new people, we need to spin them up on what we're doing, and maybe it's a junior person, maybe it's a senior person. Like everybody can see exactly how people that are already in the company are solving problems, working with each other, accessing systems, even the stupid little day-to-day things. Right. It's all right there in the open.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you and the other founder encourage it. So whether it's training or onboarding or orienting an intern, down to more of a senior level, up to more of a senior level person, like all of that sounds very encouraged. Whether it's through the chat rooms or the open layout. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing we do, which is probably common, is when somebody first starts, we ask them to join as many like client meetings and calls and such as possible, even if it's stuff that they will never work on. So like for the first week or two, I mean, literally what they're doing is they're joining my phone calls, even if they're not saying anything. They're joining other project phone calls, other employees' phone calls, not like your private phone calls, but like any kinds of meetings, calls, anything like that, just to kind of see, this is how we operate, this is how we communicate with our clients, this is the kinds of things that we might want to do.
Yeah. It's almost like, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's almost like forced collaboration. I don't like to use forced, but with the open layout and the virtual chat rooms and the fact that you can go into any of those chat rooms, you're almost forced to collaborate, for lack of a better word. Or yeah,
Collaborate or you're fired.
you collaborate or you're fired.
And you'll like it too.
And you'll like it.
And we're an agile Scrum shop.
Sure.
We have our morning stand-ups every day with the whole dev team as well, and the whole
Okay.
technology team as well. So most people are probably familiar with what that is, but
Sure.
it's 10, 15-minute thing. That's maximum. I mean, a 15-minute one would honestly be long. 10 a.m. every day, go around the room, answer 3 questions. What did you do yesterday? What do you plan on working on today? And do you have any blockers? And what we try to encourage is that if you have any blockers, you're working on something, someone else can jump in and say, oh, you know what, I just did that for another purpose last week, like let's talk after this. We don't let any of those sidebar conversations happen during the stand-up. It's just kind of like you identify it as a thing that needs to be talked about, you flag it. After the stand-up, those 2 people can get together.
Yeah.
But the idea is, by saying what you're planning on doing today, it lets other people who've solved the problem or done similar things jump in and work with you or send you what they know.
Yeah, wow, that sounds really interesting. I mean, if only every company did some of that.
I probably cannot understate the importance of social networking to our success.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are there specific social networking sites that...
Yeah, I mean, even just like Twitter, right? So I have personally become pretty well known in a couple of different technology communities, and pretty well known is relative, right? Like, I mean, not tens of thousands of people, but
Sure.
we get a lot of incoming business and a lot of incoming leads and a lot of support, and I think we gain a lot of authority by just our presence of constantly helping people out online for free with nothing.
Oh, wow.
Like people, in these specific technologies or languages or whatever, kind of asking questions, we just say, email us, we'll help for free. And what we find is that 2 years later, we get an email saying, hey, remember when you did this? Well, now I have, a project with budget.
Oh, wow.
So we've gotten probably an uncountable amount of business that way.
Really? Like, so it just boomerangs back. So this whole idea of just kind of pay it forward with helping people.
I mean, just a huge, huge believer. And I mean, the cynical way to look at it is it helps you gain authority, right? That by helping people for free in their minds, it's showing that you actually know what you're talking about. You're gaining authority personally and in the community,
For sure.
and of the various overlapping communities to end up, taking like a dominant position.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but so that's great.
Yeah, that's really important. And we've even hired people like that. We just know from. There have been people that I tried to hire for years, and they finally worked for us because I knew them and I knew all the work they've been doing, and just because I saw them online, and just followed them and saw the kinds of work that they were putting out for free. We get a lot of business because of our open source contributions too. We do a lot of contributions to the open source world. Stuff that we might be able to charge for, who knows, but it's not worth it for us to charge for those things because just again by being known for that stuff, and people use it and they say, oh, who made this? Vector? They must be experts. Let me contact them for some budgeted work.
Right. Yeah, and it sounds like, because of that, like you gain a bigger presence in the marketplace that you serve in.
Totally. It helps our recruiting because I think it helps good people understand that they can work with us, and they'll be able to still kind of get known, contribute out. That we're a company that cares about, like the world and the industry around us, and we give back because we use so much open source software.
Yeah, and so we talked about, some of the values that stand out when I hear about Vector Media Group, collaboration or supporting creativity, or, and through the physical layout or the virtual rooms, or just giving back to the community. How do you help a new employee understand the culture of your organization? Do you have like specific values you walk them through, or like how do you make sure an employee understands the culture coming from the outside in when you recruit them?
We don't have a specific set of value statements that we again make them memorize or they're fired. We quiz them on it out there. It's really, I think, about learning from the other people that have worked with us and for us for a while. So making sure that the first couple projects that someone new works on, they're working on with someone really senior on the team.
Interesting.
Honestly, even if that slows down the senior person a little bit.
Right. Okay.
We've never, I don't think we've ever hired two people that were new, even if they were more senior, but they were new. We kind of put them together, and that's it. We make sure that every time we're working on something, like, that new person is with someone who's been with us for a while.
Right.
And they're kind of learning by osmosis in that way.
Yeah. So it sounds very, very proactive, very strategic, very well thought out of. It sounds like you and your founder put a lot of time in how you want to run the company and, how you want to focus on your people. This mentoring or buddying idea, even though it slows a more senior member of the team down. Let's get into some of the technology questions, and then we'll circle back. How would you describe your production deployment process?
Sure. Actually, I just want to go back to the other question for one more
Yeah,
second.
for sure.
One of the values, when we started, one of the values that was very important to us was work-life balance.
Interesting.
We
Okay.
have never asked any of our employees to deal with an emergency until midnight, stay in the office till 9 p.m., 10 p.m.,
Okay.
honestly even 8 p.m. It's never happened. And maybe it'll happen next week, right? But I'm committing to you that it's never going to happen because
Sure.
It's such an important value to us. And so we don't do a lot of, open barn nights or those kinds of
Socials.
things. Yeah, and maybe we should do more of those. But one of the things that worries me is that those, a lot of times become fun responsibilities. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, it's so
right.
much fun. Come to
It's
the.
not organic.
Yeah, it's not organic. People feel like if they don't go, they're going to be passed over for promotions or whatever else. So
Sure.
maybe we don't have enough of those, but I always felt like the more important value for us was making sure people understand that they can go home and be with their family or play video games or whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
So that's something that we struggle with a little bit. We're trying to figure out how to make sure we can have team bonding events, but not to make them feel like a responsibility and not ruin our great record of letting people have a reasonable life. Do you want to know about the technologies behind our deployment, or more of the company process?
Yeah, probably the deployment process.
Okay, so we deploy the majority of our projects and do server configurations and deploy code through a system called Ansible.
Okay.
A lot of people are familiar with Chef and Puppet.
Sure.
We've used those. We really like Ansible because what we found is that things like Chef and Puppet are very declarative. So you're kind of saying to Chef, your lines are literally install this, do this,
right.
do this. With Ansible, it's more about defining the end state. This is what I want this configuration to look like at the end.
Right.
And Ansible kind of gets you there. And it's kind of a weird, different way of thinking, and maybe,
right. So it sounds more goal-oriented.
It's more goal-oriented. It's also idempotent. So with Chef, you could have situations where commands are running multiple times, and maybe that's a problem. With Ansible, because you're kind of defining the end state, if something's already in that state, nothing will happen. So you can run it as many times as you want. It's idempotent. You don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
We use that to do server configurations as part of deployment strategies, and we use it to deploy code.
Okay.
We also use it to run database migrations, and
Okay.
to automatically do database snapshots before. So we built a bunch of custom tooling around it, and actually it's all tied into the chat system.
Nice.
So the way it works is you can do a deployment either from your main screen and terminal or SSH and in, or you can do a deployment from the specific chat room of the project. So going back one more time.
Sure.
We also pump downtime and performance errors and alerts into the chat rooms of each individual project. So if there's a sudden spike in error rates on a certain controller or view or anything like that, you'll get an alert in red in that specific project's chat room, and it says, there's a big spike in errors, click here for details.
Okay.
This way the people on the project can be alerted to that.
Yeah.
Same thing with any monitoring, site goes down, anything like that.
Okay,
System goes
yeah.
down, server fails.
And they can remedy that once the message comes up.
And again, it's in context, all the chat rooms are open, so the new people, anybody can see how that's all handled right away by the people that are experienced, because all of that happens in the chat room.
Yeah, so it's real-time data that they can
Absolutely.
action.
So you asked about
Yeah, software vendors, how do you handle vendor relations, for example?
Um, in terms of like technology and giving them access to things. So,
Yeah,
so
that's a good example.
You know, it's definitely the principle of least privilege, right? We make sure that any vendor, they only have access to exactly what they need and nothing else. Typically, no external vendor is going to get production access.
Okay.
We'll give them access to our Git repository. We'll give them access to a staging area. We'll likely give them access to their own staging area or their own staging network so they can test their own changes kind of separate from us. We'll invite them into the chat room as well for that specific project, just for that specific project.
So there's controls around how much access they have.
Absolutely. Contractually, we'll make sure that we're not granting them any rights that we don't have contractually from our clients as well.
Sure.
Projects, so we can't do that.
Yeah.
And we always do like trial projects. Like we would never sign a long-term vendor agreement without doing some kind of trial first.
Right.
Whatever it might be.
Right. So it's almost like you pilot the work out to them before you move on to something bigger.
Absolutely. We've actually piloted work that we've already done. In some cases, like we did something, we know how we solved it, and we piloted like a vendor or a contractor, somebody to try it as well, so we can kind of compare what we know the solution was, or what we did as a solution to what they would have come up with.
Yeah, oh, that's great. So you're very careful about it.
Yeah.
Right, bringing in new vendors.
We have to be.
After one of my favorite questions, after years of focusing on delivering value to the business, why is IT still largely viewed as a cost center?
I think because the counterfactual is hard to measure. I was just talking to Jason about this. That if somebody on your team works like 10% faster or 10% better, or they just do better, there's no like line item that says, oh, our profit on widgets was 10% better this month. You know what I mean? It's very hard to measure the upside.
Sure.
All you see is a cost and a downside. And so I feel like, especially when you have companies where maybe the CEO is not a big technology person, they don't always understand the difference between, again, like an A person and a B person.
Right.
They don't understand the value that optimizing something, making it 10% better necessarily gives, because that they never see the counterfactual. They never see that, oh, this little bit of extra effort that IT put in, or this extra redundant system. If you build a system that's 99.9% redundant, right? And so let's say whatever you're building, like that's a great number or something, or 99% has 99.9% uptime, I should say. That 0.1% of the time it goes down, you're gonna get blamed.
Yeah, and that's all people are gonna remember.
Absolutely, but you don't get credit for the fact that it didn't go down all those other times.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting because you have some great behemoth technology firms now that have seen to overtake in the marketplace, the Googles or the Amazons or the Microsofts. I mean, surely they're not, their revenue, they're profitable. I don't see them as a cost center. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think it's hard sometimes for the people at companies that are using vendors like that to see what the alternative is. I think they're seen as a cost center just because they see this giant like Amazon bill every month, but it's hard to quantify all those things that you don't have to pay for, the data center that you didn't have to spin up,
Sure.
the redundant power you didn't have to spin up, the backup systems you didn't have to make as well.
Sure, right. Those are tangible numbers.
Exactly, they're tangible costs.
That's a good segue to the next question. In your experience, how do you think IT can do a better job of making its top management aware of how it's adding value?
Do really poorly for a couple months.
Right, and then everyone starts screaming.
Yeah, exactly. I think that one of the things a lot of IT people shy away from is like business metrics. So everybody using IT puts metrics around like their latency and their uptime and this and this and this, but I think a lot of times you see IT people, they don't want to get involved in the business side. And I think it's important for IT people to have that conversation. and to be able to quantify those numbers and put metrics around those things and say, this is the amount of time we've saved, this is the amount of, I don't know, if it's like a consumer-facing application, this is, we're A/B testing, this is the amount of extra marginal income we've gotten you. I think it depends, but
sure.
I think it's important for IT people to understand that, to like have business conversations and be at the table in business questions and business meetings, and not just feel like they're support. A lot of times IT is seen as just supporting the real business,
sure.
Whereas I think it's important for IT to explain, we're enabling an even better business in this way,
sure.
And that's why we want to be part of these discussions early, instead of just executing what a product manager says we should execute.
Yeah, right. Or just being totally an IT professional or focusing on your code or your program. So do you encourage employees to understand the business side?
You have to. Absolutely. We tell our clients or our prospects that we want to be at the table from day one, before a line of code is written, before a spec is prepared,
sure.
Before servers spun up. Like, we have to understand the business, and we have to push back sometimes, because sometimes what you get is a business person is saying, well, this is the business requirement,
right?
And here's the technology requirement for that. And we want to say, no, just tell us the business requirement. Let us come up with a technology solution for that, and maybe here's something you didn't think of, or maybe here's something that solves 80% of your business problem at 20% of the cost. And I think business people appreciate that, because if you understand their business goals, you can figure out, how do you get that? How do you get 80% of your business goals at at much less cost? And maybe that's a good phase one. Maybe that's what they really want, so they can invest money elsewhere. They see you're making technology decisions that affect their actual business. Yeah. Not just being like monkeys. We like to tell our clients that if you want code monkeys, you should not hire us.
Interesting.
If you just want a company that you're going to give a spec to, they never say a word, they build that is not us. We want to be at the table and give feedback and have ideas about how technology can even enable more of the business goals that they're trying to look for.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm sure the executives that you work with at client organizations are looking for that conversation.
Absolutely. It's a good question, right? Because a lot of our clients, maybe not so much as much these days, I feel like it's been getting better, but
sure.
The first question they ask is should we be on cloud or on premise? And what we've tried to tell them is that having your systems on premise is actually so much less safe, because you're never going to have the security infrastructure of Amazon, of Google, of Microsoft. You're just not.
Right.
So, why not leverage their economies of scale,
sure.
where they're providing you top class millions of dollars of database service at your much lower budget level. We also point to hacks. I mean, every time a small or medium business that has their own system is hacked, we show them this. We're not saying you'll never get hacked, but the idea that you and your own people are going to be able to kind of host this in-house and do a better job than these giant billion-dollar companies, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. And with all the money that you save by not being on premise, you could just invest that in even more security staff, more security logging, and more scanning.
Right.
You could take that money and put it into more security, so you end up with a much better scalable system that's also more secure. So I think the way we take it is we kind of go out with the assumption that on-premise hosting is just a terrible idea in effectively every instance, and that's where we start the conversation.
Right. You show them some research, or you show them some examples where there's been breaches. Mm-hmm. You let them know that there's no economies of scale. They're never going to be in Amazon. Right. Do you think your organization is making the right amount of technology investment for the year? And if so, let us know. If not, why not?
I think as an agency, every agency struggles with just getting more business on the technologies that well, and training and spending the time that you could otherwise be doing client work or customer work and learning, figuring out what's going to be next, right? But if you don't spend the time to do that, you're dead in 5 years. You're dead in 2 years.
Sure.
When there's something new. So I actually always tend to think we're underinvesting a little bit. I think every agency is probably always dramatically underinvesting in just training their people for the stuff that's not popular yet but will be, doing internal projects, all the non-paying stuff that's going to be good for you in a couple years from now. I tend to think all agencies underinvest in that.
Yeah, because again, it's not billable or
Yeah.
like, yeah, and that's a challenge.
We started a client project. We treated it like a client project that we called Vector Internal Projects, VIP. It was like a really clever acronym. And
Do they feel VIP when they get involved?
I guess, it's like, we said these are internal projects, these are little things that we need to do to make ourselves more efficient, or we just think will be fun, and we're not going to do them in any technologies that we're familiar with. Like, we're going to do them all in new technologies,
Right.
and if they're failures, whatever.
Right.
So we're going to treat it like a client project, we're going to leave leave room for it in every single sprint that we do. But we did it, but we didn't, if there's a client emergency, the first project to get cut was like our internal project.
Sure.
So I think
Sure.
we're constantly struggling with that.
Yeah, that balance. So last question before we go to the audience. What are you doing as a leader? What are you doing to ensure you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
I read a lot.
You read a lot?
I try to read like everything I can about management theory. Like, I'm still learning, right?
Sure.
We were a two-person company 4 years
Right.
ago.
And now you're 30 plus?
30 plus, and the majority of those people are my direct reports, just because our department is the biggest one.
Sure.
So I try to read as much as I can about management styles, about
Sure.
lessons of doing things. I'm trying to always solicit feedback. One of the things I realized was that my one-on-one process stopped being scalable about a year ago when I when I got like too many people working under me.
Sure.
And honestly, I don't even spend that much time with all these people. Like, it's not fair to them to do a one-on-one when I'm not the person they work most closely with.
Sure.
So we started like a full 360 peer review process. I called a bunch
Wow.
of very well-known agencies in the industry. I was just honest. I was like, hey, we're growing, we're your like friend editors, and how do you guys do peer reviews? Like, how do you do your processes, and how are you doing
Right.
this? So I'm constantly trying to learn. I try often to get honest feedback from the people we work with about what I could personally be doing better.
Sure.
We do lessons learned at the
Great.
end of every single project, lesson learned. We bring in, it's me as the project lead, it's the PM lead and the QA lead, and anybody else relevant on the
Sure.
project.
Sure.
Like, what could we do differently? There's no judging. You do not get judged. It's just what did we do poorly and what could we do better. We also do postmortems. So, like, client server goes down, or like, I don't know, whatever. There's some kind of issue, even a PM issue, like a budget was blown or
Sure.
something. We have a postmortem format. So
Yeah,
after
that's
it's
great.
resolved, like, the person, kind of the key person who have to deal with this, writes up a postmortem. It's shared with everybody on the staff, including me. I write them as well in an issue, and there's no judging. But it's just like people comment. It's a Google Doc, and you just kind of comment. Well, what about doing this here instead? What about doing this here? And the format is like, here's what went wrong. Here's the timeline. Here's who was involved. Here's what went right. Like, here are the things that we did properly. And we identified this. Our monitoring went off.
Sure.
Identified this. Here's what we did wrong. And all the other people in the company can kind of comment and say,
That's great.
this is what I would have done differently. How
Right.
about this? How about this? How about this? We do that not only for like server and deployment issues, but like management issues.
Oh, that's great.
Like, we blew a timeline, we blew a budget, we overpromised the client something, we hired someone and they quit 3 days later. Whatever it is, whatever that failure was, like, let's do a postmortem. And let's have it open with the whole company and in a folder of postmortems so we can all learn from it.
That's great. So that's just part of the culture. It's part of the fabric. It's part of the process and the way of doing things there.
Absolutely.
That's great. Let's turn to the audience. What questions do we have for Matt today?
Not all at once. Like, really trying to be one of the most involved, one of the people that understands the business questions the best. So I know that you said I kind of said that, but specifically, but like, when I say we try to understand the business goals and requirements, that's not just so we can write them down. Like, we try to be very involved. Like, we'll ask questions, we'll throw out ideas, we'll try to show that we're taking almost product ownership, even though it's not our product in some ways, because I feel like people that don't understand IT or that may see it as a cost center, once they see that you care about the product, you care about the business goals, that they kind of assume that the things you're doing are going to be towards that. I think being very proactive about ideas, like long-term ideas, like, hey, if we invest in this now, 2-3 years from now, we could be doing X, where X is not like saving server costs, but X is like delivering this other business product type thing. It shows that you're using your IT knowledge and your IT infrastructure and system, again, not to further IT goals, but to further product goals. I don't know if this is really answering your question very well. We're still in a supporting role. Like, no company has ever been like grown just like to be IT, right? IT is always supporting a business, even a company like Google, where their whole thing is IT. I mean, really, they're an advertising company.
Sure.
So I think it's very important for us not to forget that sometimes, and to show that, you know, the reason we're building this IT stuff is to support the business goals, and we're thinking about margin. And when we're thinking about cutting our costs, just kind of showing that we're not afraid to cut, I don't know, staff or costs or whatever, even though it means that we're in control of like less budget or fewer things. I think that ultimately breeds this idea that we do have respect for the product, and there will probably be less questions and fewer cuts down the road. I think just breeding trust, again, that you have the same business goals as everyone else, and it's not just like grow your IT infrastructure to this thing that nobody else can figure out, is very important. That's the best answer I have for that. Like, it used to be just me and like a guy over there, and like everyone I think I knew from you. The chat rooms are a big one.
Yeah.
They're really huge. I cannot understate the value of having everyone on the team seeing people solve a problem together, just working together. Because they see these two people, and again, even those project chat rooms are open to people that are not on those projects. So,
right.
You know, they're seeing, people that are not on those projects are seeing the way the people on those projects are like fixing this problem, implementing this. You know, every commit we make to code gets fed into there. So that's a big one. We also, as I mentioned, our stand-up, because we're an agile shop, we have like we use a system called Jira, but we have like a big Jira board, and it's Jira Agile.
Sure.
And so every task that everybody is doing is on that board. And so there's no secrets, there's nothing like that, and we have a big culture of like lunch and learns and sharing cool things. So whenever somebody builds something cool, we encourage them to host a lunch and learn, like within a week, you know, or like within 2 weeks, whenever. Like, don't wait a year for this. Like, here's what I did, and it should be very show-offy, like very purposely. It's supposed to be like, here's like this really cool thing that I just built, and you guys should all do this too. I try not to be a bottleneck, so I found that I was being a bottleneck because I used to be like on every project, and it was very hard for me to get off of that, but I realized that it was just causing a problem because I knew all this knowledge and nobody else did, and people were coming to me, and I was like, but he was just working on that, and they said, I have no idea. So along with Jira, we use another Atlassian product called Confluence. So Confluence is like a wiki type thing, and it integrates with Jira, and so between all of those things, like everything is totally public to the company, and everything is memorialized inside of Confluence or Jira or the HipChat chat room. I don't know if that works for every company, but at least for us, like everything with the product is totally open. That's one way we try to do it. I'm sorry, going back one more time.
Yeah, sure.
The post-mortem thing is also something I can't understate the value of. And like, again, it has to be open, has to be full comments, and it has to be non-judgy. Like, the comments cannot be, this was like a really stupid idea, you shouldn't have done this, you know? Because then people aren't going to write post-mortems. As far as business development goes, we're pretty open. I mean, basically all of our business is from referrals or like just organic people knowing about us. I try to speak at a lot of conferences. I guess not as many anymore, but people tend to know us that way. I found that once we do like a big project in an industry, you know, like we suddenly get a lot of projects in that industry too. So for a while we were doing a lot of publishing work because we did this like big kind of notable publishing launch, and I guess all the publishing people like know their friends, right? And so now we work with the Associated Press. So there's a lot of that. And I find also that once you've done a couple projects with certain verticals, you have such a better story to tell to prospects, right? And because you can go to the prospect, and if you get an RFP, or if you're even just known, like you can talk their language, like you can say things that are kind of inside baseball to them, and they say, oh wow, you actually understand this industry, you know, in a way that your competitors don't. So I've actually found it very valuable to really understand industries and specialize a little bit, like even if it's specialized in something as wide as e-commerce, because we can talk about A/B testing and metrics and conversion rates and lifetime value and like time to purchase and drip campaigns and all those kinds of things. And when you say that to like a marketer, a CMO at an e-commerce company, they're like, wow, you're this technology team, but again, you're using our technology to like actually sell more of my product. And we're coming to them with the idea,
Sure.
Let's do a drip marketing, let's do remarketing, let's, log these people to Salesforce and then email them 7 days later, whatever, which also gives us more business.
Along the same lines, just a quick follow-up. How do you break into new industries?
With luck of getting a referral that way. Honestly, we have a great process. The ways that it's happened before are that a client was really happy with us. Somebody there on their team quit. And they worked which is my favorite thing. I love when, even if I'm going to miss them, when a client that loves us, somebody there quits, moves to a different company, and then they call us. Because they know you. Because you did right by them, their old company. A lot of that, and just luck, I guess. That's been our best way. We don't really do cold calls or we don't really prospect that often.
So Matt Weinberg, president of Vector Media Group, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.